In today's video, we're going to make the same shirt 2 times for a mom and a kiddo so that they can be Mr. Matchers. Now the pattern that we're going to do is a pleated V, so there's going to be pleats running up a shirt and the pattern will be V from the bottom to the top. So let me show you how we do that. Okay, first thing we need to do is we're going to fold this shirt in half. I'm not going to do sleeve in sleeve, it's not necessary because we're going to be ice dyeing this t-shirt, but I do want to make the fold as symmetrical as possible so that the V pattern ends at the middle of the bottom of the shirt and it's sort of even on both sides. So let me get this folded in half. Okay, so the only purpose for this yardstick here is that I want to keep the creases really nice and tight on the inside, the middle of the shirt, which is sort of the focal point. And when you fold the shirt in half, there's a chance that the inner folds can sort of get a little bit, I don't know, like just not clean. So I use a yardstick, and then now that I've got everything sort of pushed up against the edge and I'm confident that there aren't any weird folds in here, then I'm just going to slide the yardstick out gently. Just feeling to make sure I don't notice that there's any big lumps. That looks good. These 2 little blue stains, if you've noticed them, sometimes it happens, but it's not going to matter. It's going to be completely hidden once we're done. So next thing, let's talk about the pleating pattern. Okay, so now I've got the yardstick back out, and what we're going to do here is we're going to draw a line up and down the shirt, and I want the very bottom corner here to be nice and tight at the corner of the shirt. And then we're going to decide how steep of a V we want the final pattern to be. I think something sort of just right there, landing kind of right at the middle of the sleeve, is probably going to look pretty nice. So now we're going to use a washable marker, and I'm going to draw a line from the top to the bottom, and then we're going to pleat up that line. So pretty easy. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pleat up this diagonal line, and then after this is all pleated up and rubber banded up, then we'll talk about the colors that we're going to do and the ice dye method. Alright, so you can be as finicky with this as you like. You don't have to be as picky as I was, particularly in the middle. This is going to be an ice dye, so there's going to be a lot of variation in the result anyways. But don't be too hard on yourself when it comes to the ends. When you get to like the sleeve, it gets pretty thick and the pleats are not going to be quite as nice, so there's an example there. And then of course the collar, it's just too thick, so there's not a ton that you can do to be really precious. This is just a Gildan 100% cotton shirt, so it's not very, very thin. The thinner the shirt is, the easier it is to get really hyper detailed, but don't be too hard on yourself. So here is the first of the 2 shirts. I'm gonna fold the other one off camera just for length of the video. You don't need to see it done twice. The next shirt is an extra small, so it will take less time, and that's cool. So let me get the other one pleated up, and then we'll come back and talk about colors. Okay, so here we go. The first one that I did, and then the little one, the second one. This one was a little bit more finicky, honestly, because there's just so much fewer, littler fabric. The tops and bottoms are a little bit messier, I would say, but all in all, I mean, you can kind of see what we're going for here. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put this into a tote on a rack, and then we're going to talk about the colors. Okay, so I have a wee predicament. The shirt, the first shirt that we made here, it's a little bit longer than my tote is. So these tips here are not actually being supported by this elevated rack. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the colors just as I had planned on doing, and then these, once the ice goes on top of them, might sort of settle down a little bit, and then we're going to get a little bit of what they call a gravity dye, maybe, where liquid flows from one section to the other because it's sort of hanging over. Sorry, that's a little bit of an aside if you've never heard of gravity dyeing, but let me get some colors down, and then I'll show you what we do after that. All right, the colors. So by request, 3 colors: a blue, we're gonna do sapphire blue, a purple, deep purple, and a gray. Thundercloud, all 3 from Dharma Trading, and I'm gonna put them down in stripes. So I'll show you that now. Okay, I don't know if you can tell if I sound a little different, but I've got a mask on. Please wear a mask when you're doing powder dye. You'd be surprised how much of this aerosolizes when you're pouring it on. So let's get some colors down. This is gray. It's hard to tell, but this is the thundercloud. And now let's start over again. Back to blue. Okay, I think that worked out pretty nice, good and balanced. I got all 3 colors put down 3 times, so they are going to match in terms of the number of stripes, which I was hoping for. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go get some ice. We're going to just put ice on top of this as best we can, and then I'll probably continue to add ice as it batches. So I'm going to try and just put ice directly over the shirts, and then try and avoid losing it in the sides here. I'll show you. Okay, so the kind of ice that we're using is, I guess you'd probably just call this like pebble ice. It's the kind of ice that they use in grocery stores. Like if you're in the seafood department of a grocery store, this is what they put all the fish on top of. So now I'm going to put ice on top of these, and I'm going to try not to disturb the colors too much, but if you do, it's not really a big deal. Okay, well, if you're new to tie-dye, you're probably thinking, okay, cool, that's what I do. If you're experienced in tie-dye, you might be thinking, why the heck didn't he use an ice barrier? As in, why didn't I put, sometimes I'll use aluminum foil as like I'll build a wall around all this. And honestly, it's because this is kind of huge, and I thought I could get away with it with the big chunks I have, and maybe I can, and maybe I can't. So let's find out. I am gonna leave this right here, let it melt through for a few hours, and then I'll maybe give you a shot of it, see what it looks like, figure out where to add more ice, and we're gonna make it work. Okay, well, it's been like maybe 4 hours, and as you can see, it's actually, I'm sort of impressed. That ice has saturated quite a lot of this, but I do think I want some more, and I don't want to build an ice barrier. So now that there's no more powder dye directly on the project, let me back up here. Now that there's no more powder dye, what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to smush these two together a little bit, if it'll let me. Well, okay, that worked on that side, and then I'm just going to add more ice on top of this. Let me do that real quick. Alright, so let's leave that for until that melts, and then I think what I'll do, I'll probably just bring you guys back once it's all melted through, it's batched for 24 hours. I'll do a little rinse out in my bathtub, and then we'll bring it open for the pop-up. But if anything weird happens with this, I will bring you back for that. But I suspect next shot will be the reveal. Okay, so it's been actually 48 hours since these went under ice. I just got them all rinsed out in my bathtub, so let's take a little look at them before we pop them open. There is some pretty obvious gray. The darks are all very dark. This looks like it's going to be very well saturated. The colors play very nicely together. This was a good choice on her part. This is the kiddo one. You can kind of see everything looks pretty alike. So let's go ahead and pop this one open first, and then we'll do this one, and then we'll look at them both next to each other. Oh yeah, these colors work great together. Okay, let me do this. Cool. Oh, neat. There's a spade. This has happened in one other video that I made before. That's kind of cool. Okay, let me go ahead and pop this all the way open. Very, very cool. I might remake this for myself down the road, some different colors. But kind of self-explanatory, right? The pleated V. So I think let's pop open the kiddo size one. Let me just do that real quick. Oh, interesting. It looks like the gray is just a little bit more obvious in this one. I might be imagining that, but... oh yeah. This one turned out just a tiny bit cleaner, I think, in terms of like the boundary here in the middle. This is the back though. Let's pop it open and look at the front. Yeah, very cool. I think this one turned out just a tiny bit cleaner in this area. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So this sort of area here on the smaller shirt, you know, actually they're very, very similar. Wow. Okay, well, that's kind of neat, right? Going to be very obvious that these are Mr. Matcher shirts. I'll get them washed out and dried, and then I'll do pictures at the end so you can see how much they lighten up. And thank you so much for watching. This was kind of a fun one. Real easy to do if you want to do your own. If you liked the video, please like it, and I will see you next time.